was the guy who encountered, the king who encountered the red man. And he was taking a carriage down the street to go to Hotel de Ville. At that time, this was a boulevard. Now, Henry IV was a Protestant, and there was a small faction of Catholics in Paris who were happy that a Protestant became king of France, even though he converted to Catholicism. And there was a school teacher they recruited named Ravaillac. Ravaillac was the to-be assassin. They gave him a potion that said it would make him invisible. And then, what else did they give him? A knife, a magic knife. He hid on the side, and as the king came in his carriage, he jumped out and stabbed the king in the neck. He cut the king perfectly on the jugular vein, and he sanguinated the king. Blood was everywhere. Awesome, right? That's why you're on this tour. You want to hear stuff like that. And then he was arrested. The king was dead. They buried him in the Basilica of Saint Denis short after having an immaculate funeral. Now, Henry IV was very popular, like Obama. Used to be. Joking. Can't you tell a joke? Obama was the first week. So what happened was, the cool part now began. What happened to Ravaillac? Well, they began his 3-day execution. 3 days! That's great. That's according to the legend. I think it took more like 12 hours. What they did first was they injected his veins with lead. Then his arms couldn't move. Then they filleted his skin. They left his tongue in for last because they wanted him to scream the whole time. They removed his fingernails and his toenails. They peeled his skin off his arms. They burned his eyes out with hot coals until they drew and quartered him, tying him to 4 horses in 4 different directions. But the horses were having so much trouble, it's pulling them apart because of all the lead in his veins. And finally they pulled him apart and they did something very cool to a Catholic. They cremated him, spread his ashes to the 4 corners of France, burned his house to the ground, and expelled any relative he had from the country. Well, they put it in the newspaper the next day. This is how you not kill your king. But the story doesn't end there. It gets even more gruesome. During the French Revolution, all of the revolutionaries go into the Basilica of Saint Denis. They grab the bodies of all the kings and queens and put them out in a little parade out in front of the basilica. And people pick parts of the kings and queens' corpses. And someone stole the head of Henry IV. He was perfectly mummified because all his blood was taken from his body. In 1937, an old man claiming to have bought the head of Henry IV in a flea market for 4 francs tried to sell it to the Louvre for 30 francs, and the Louvre refused it. It wasn't until 1997 that DNA evidence could prove that his head was actually part of Henry IV, and the French government finally claimed the head back. And it's not on display. So we call this the floating head of Henry IV. All right, we're going to go to our final story.